A few weeks ago, I interviewed for the role of a front-end developer at an Indian Fintech Company. Let's call it TazorPay. The interview was based on some problem solving, JavaScript and React.js questions. So that's why in today's video, I'm gonna discuss the whole process on how I got the interview and all of the questions that were involved in the interview process. So I reached out to one of the recruiters of the company on Twitter, LinkedIn and even on email. And fortunately, he saw my message and reached out to me through the contact information that I had provided. In that message, I had included my proof of work, that is my portfolio, my work experience, and all of my skill sets. If you would also like to learn how you can send an effective cold email, I had made a complete video on this topic, link to which you can find in the description down below. So the first round was the live coding round and it was with one of the senior software engineers of the company. So the first question that the interviewer gave me was to create a cost calculator in React.js where you can add the items to the cart and calculate total cost of the cart by adding the price and quantity. Also, we can change the quantity of the item in the cart, so the total cost should adapt to that. So I've opened VS Code over here and let's quickly initialize a new React.js app. npx create React app, and then I'm gonna give the name of our app, which I'm gonna say, let's say cost calculator. So what this will do is it's gonna create a new React.js app called cost calculator inside this folder right over here. So let's wait.
2,000 years later.
Alright, so our React.js app has finally installed. So let's switch to that folder and we're gonna start our app by running npm start. And here we go, our React.js app has been successfully started. So let's go back to the code and I'm going to open app.js and I'm going to remove all of the code that we are not going to use and all of these useless files as well. And it says can't find report web vitals. Okay, let's remove that from index.js here and here, and I think we should be good to go. Let's remove this logo and write hello and let's see. Cool, we have this hello over here. Also we have some styles, I think. Let's remove all of these styles and save. Cool, hello is over here. Now how do we get all of this data of the products that we are going to use in our app? So it depends on the interviewer actually. Some of the interviews allow you to use an API to fetch the products, but few of them will ask you to create a JSON data. So I was fortunate enough that my interviewer allowed me to use an API. So I quickly went to the Google and I searched dummy products API. And yep, this link. And I found this API over here, which fetches me the dummy data for the products. If I hit it, you can see we get all of this data for the products. Cool. So let's quickly take this and go to our app and I'm gonna fetch it over here. Before that, we need another package called Axios. Actually, it depends on you. If you want to use fetch, you can also use fetch. But if you are more comfortable with Axios, you can use the Axios package. So I'm gonna kill the terminal and say npm install Axios. Alright, there we go. Axios has been installed. Let's restart our app. And over here, I'm gonna create a function for fetching all of the products. So fetch products. And inside of it, I'm gonna say const data equals await Axios. And let me import Axios first. Import Axios from Axios. And I'm gonna say Axios dot get to make a get call, and inside this I'm going to provide the API. Also, since we are using await, so the function is supposed to be async, just like this. Now we are supposed to call this fetch products whenever this component is rendered, so I'm going to call it inside this use effect. Let's import use effect from React. Cool. Now inside of this I'm going to call this fetch products. Oops. Yep, just like this. And this data, I'm gonna console log this data over here for now, and let's see what do we get in the console. So let's open the console, and here you can see we get this data object. Inside of this we have all of this products data. Awesome. So that is what we needed. So if we say data dot products, so we will get only the products array, which is this one over here. Awesome. So now we need something to manage our state. In that state, we're gonna keep our products data, we're gonna keep our cart data, and everything that we're looking to manage in our state. So this can be done by many ways. You can use useState as well, but I decided to use useReducer because it's much more efficient and the scalable way to manage the data. So what I did over here was I created a useReducer hook. So what this useReducer takes is, so you can see, so this takes a reducer over here and the initial state. So we're gonna create a reducer for this in just a second, and it returns this two array items. One is state, which is our actual state, and the other is dispatch, which we can use to manipulate our state. So let's create a new folder over here called reducers. And actually these things matter a lot. If you create appropriate folders and keep your app structured, interviewer will appreciate all of these things and will be impressed by your coding skills. So inside of this, I'm going to create a new file. Let's say cart reducer.js. And inside of this, I'm going to create a basic reducer. Export const cart reducer, which takes the state and the action which will be performed on this. And we're going to add a switch case inside of it, which we're not gonna write anything just yet. So I'm gonna keep it empty, and I'm just gonna add action dot type. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain everything as we go along in this video. We have created this reducer, so I'm gonna add this reducer over here and imported it just like this. And we needed the initial state. So what the initial state is going to be? The first thing is going to be the products. So products array, which is going to be empty initially, and the cart, which is also going to be empty initially. Let me close this. Now, when we fetch all of these products, we want to populate this products array right over here. So instead of writing this, I'm going to write dispatch. I'm going to create a type, which will be add products. And I'm going to send the data, that is payload, to be the data. Cool. Now this add product doesn't exist yet, so I'm gonna go inside of my cart reducer and I'm gonna create our first case. So obviously this switch case will detect the type of action, and here the type of action was add product, so I'm gonna create a case for it. So case add products, and inside of this, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the data that was being sent over here and populate our products array. So basically we're gonna say return, we're gonna spread our state, and we're gonna add the products, and inside of the products we're gonna add action dot payload. So this payload is the same value that we sent over here. So yeah, this should do it. Let's check it out. We go to our app and let's print this state just like that. And yep, you can see our state has this products array. And you know what, let's go to this React DevTools extension and we can see our state of the app. So inside of the reducer, we have this products array. And you know what, actually we needed this products and not the data. So I'm gonna say data dot products. Yeah, that's more like it. So let's refresh this, and yep, we have this products array and we have the cart array as empty. Okay, so now that we have populated all of the data inside of our state, what we're gonna do, we're gonna render all of this data in our screen, right? So let's create a new component. So I'm gonna create a new folder called components, and I'm gonna create a new component called products.js. And again, if you structure your code like this in a clean way, interviewer is gonna appreciate that. So RAFCE, and by the way, this was an extension that I have added in my VS Code called ES7 plus React Redux React Native Snippets. So here's the component that we have created. So this component is going to take a state and the dispatch to manipulate that state, right? So I'm gonna create products over here. Import products, and I'm gonna provide this state and the dispatch. So we're gonna create a component for products, and let's create a component for our cart as well. So first let me see if it's rendered. Yep, products is rendered. I'm gonna create another component called cart .js. RAFCE. This is also going to take two things, state and dispatch. Let's render that. You know what, I'm gonna duplicate this, just replace it with this cart and import it. So as you can see, these both have been imported right over here. Yep, just like that. Let me close this real quick. Now let's go inside of this products, and inside this, for this div, I'm gonna give a few styles, which are going to be this. So actually I'm not gonna go ahead and explain all of these styles, because style was not the point of this interview. The interviewer wanted me to basically create the functionality, and UI doesn't really matter as long as everything is working fine. So I gave it some minimal styles. So in this div, I gave it some display flex, some flex wrap, justify counter space between, and with 80%. So that it covers the 80% of the screen. And for this cart as well, I'm gonna give it some styles. So inside the cart as well, I gave these styles. So let's see. Oops. And instead of this class name app, I'm gonna just give this display flex. Cool. So the products has covered 80% and the cart has covered the 20% of the screen. And you can see I'm using the inline styles over here, which is not really a good practice. But again, styling didn't really matter. So since I wanted to code fast, that's why I used the inline styles. Anyways, let's go inside of the products. Now inside of this, I'm gonna map through all of the products in our state. So let me take out the products and the cart which are inside of our state, and I'm gonna use product for now. So products dot map prod over here, and inside this I'm gonna create a div which I will give the key and the few styles. And inside this div, I'm gonna first of all render the image of the product. So if we go on and see the state, if we go to inspect and console. So in the products, you can see we have a thumbnail key, a title, a price. So all of these things are what we're gonna need. So I'm gonna use an image tag with source prod.thumbnail. I'm gonna give it some alt and some style. Let's see. Yep, it's beginning to take shape, and below this I'm gonna render the title and the price. Now again, this is some basic styling over here, that's all, and I'm just adding the product.title and product.price over here. And here you can see we have the title and the price of the products. Awesome. Now below this, we're gonna need an add to cart and remove from cart buttons, right? So I'm gonna bring in the button with some basic styling with padding, border radius, etc., and the text add to cart. So let's see now. Yep, that looks good. And similarly, we're gonna have a remove from cart button as well. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it over here. So remove from cart. So obviously these both won't be displayed at the same time. When we add to the cart, only then the remove from cart button will be displayed. And in the remove from cart, I'm gonna change this background color to some reddish color. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. Now let's start adding the logic for this. Let's add the dispatch inside of our add to cart to add the actual product to our cart. So first of all, let me check if the product is already inside of the cart. We're gonna only display the remove from cart, else we will display add to cart. So I'm gonna add a logic over here. So inside of our cart array, I'm gonna add cart.sum. So what sum does is it finds something inside of an array, and if it finds it, it's going to return the true, else it's going to return the false. So I'm going to say cart.sum and p.id. If the p.id is equals to the current product.id, then it's going to return true, obviously. So if it's true, then we're going to render this remove from cart. Remove from cart. Else we're gonna render add to cart. So we just see the add to cart button over here. Nice. So now we're gonna add the logic for add to cart. So I'm gonna say on click. What this will do is it's gonna call the dispatch function, and inside of this we're gonna have a type. Type add to cart, and we're gonna have a payload which tells which product is to be added in the cart. So in this payload, we're gonna send a few things like ID, prod.id, title, prod.title, thumbnail, quantity. So quantity will be 1 initially, of course. And what else do we have? Price. Cool. So all of these things will be added inside of it. Let's check this out real quick. So I'm gonna open this console over here. Let's clear this up. So if I click on this, okay, we get an error. Cannot destructure property products of state as it is undefined. Okay, so it says that products is undefined. Why? Oh, of course, because we haven't created this add to cart logic yet. Oh man. So okay, we have to create a new case called add to cart, and we're gonna return our state by adding the product to the cart. So first of all, we're gonna spread our state as usual, and then inside of the cart we are supposed to manipulate it, right? So inside of the cart array, we're gonna spread the payload. So action dot payload, and that is the data that we are sending from over here. That is this payload. So we're gonna add this, and we're gonna add the remaining item inside of the cart. So state dot cart, and actually I made a mistake over here. So this will be outside of this object, and inside of this we're gonna have action dot payload. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Okay, so if I click on add to cart, yep, you see remove from cart over here, and inside of this, inside of the cart we have a product. Awesome. So we successfully achieved this add to cart over here. Let's write the functionality for remove from cart. So I'm gonna first create the case over here. So remove from cart, and this is also going to be simple. So inside of this cart we're gonna say state dot cart dot filter. So we're gonna filter out that product from our cart and return it. C dot id is not equal to action dot payload dot id. Obviously we haven't sent our payload yet, but we're gonna send it in just a minute. So let's copy this on click and apply it to our remove from cart. So instead of add to cart, I'm gonna add this remove from cart over here. And inside of the payload, we're gonna simply send this prod.id. So let's remove this and send prod.id. You know what? Actually, I can just send this prod, so it's gonna automatically fetch the ID from it. Yeah, cool. So let's see. We are adding it and then we are removing it. Cool. So as you can see, we are removing it from the cart. So now that we have created this add to cart and remove from cart functionality, let's create our cart UI so that we can display all of the products inside of the cart. So inside of our cart component, we're gonna take this cart from the state, and I'm gonna just add the title over here with font size 30 and align self center. So yeah, something like that. And below this, we're gonna have a subtotal. So let's create use state called total, inside of which we're going to calculate our total. So we're going to use this variable below this. So I just gave this align self center, and subtotal will be this total. So initially it's going to be $0. Cool. Now below this, we're going to render all of our cart items. So first of all, we're going to check if cart dot length is more than 0. Then we're gonna do something else. We are going to display cart is empty. So we're just gonna display this span tag with cart is empty message. Okay, let's see. Yep, cart is empty, and as soon as we add something to it, this message will be gone. Now let's create this UI over here. Now inside this, I'm gonna say cart dot map. I'm gonna map through all of the products. Inside this, I'm gonna have a div. Again, nothing rocket science about it. Just a basic div with a key and with display flex and justify content space between and some padding margin border. And inside of this div, similar to our products UI, we're gonna have an image, and we're gonna have a div with title and product price. So let's see if I add something. Yep, you can see the products are being added in the cart. Awesome. There's some UI break over here. I think we need to add that quantity button, then this will be fixed. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna keep it inside of another div so that this remains one entity and the quantity will remain the other entity. So now you're gonna see, yep, it's better. It looks better now. Below this, now I'm gonna have another div which will have some styling of display flex, align item center, and gap 10. And inside this, I'm gonna create two buttons and the quantity text. So I'm gonna add these. One is minus button, other is plus button, and we're gonna render product.quantity. Yeah, that looks much better. Now let's add the functionality of these buttons to increase or decrease the quantity. So let's add the on click over here. Inside this on click, I'm gonna have a function. Let's get a function called change quantity, and this will take the product ID and product dot quantity. So this is minus, right? So we're gonna decrease the quantity. So the current product quantity -1. That's all. And obviously this change quantity doesn't exist yet, so I'm gonna create it in just a minute. For plus change quantity, and it's gonna be +1. Cool. Now inside this change quantity, let's create a function over here. Const change quantity. This will take the ID and the quantity. And inside this, we're gonna call the dispatch again to change the quantity of our state. I'm gonna say dispatch, and this will be of type, let's say change cart quantity, and the payload will be the ID and the quantity. Cool. And obviously we're gonna have to create this change cart quantity now. So let's go inside of over here. I'm gonna say case change cart quantity, and this will return, first spread the state, and then we're gonna do this. So inside of the cart, we're gonna say state dot cart dot filter. So we're gonna filter it and find that product and then change the quantity of that product. So I'm gonna say c dot id is equals to the id that is being sent. So action dot payload dot id. If it's equal to that, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna say c dot quantity is equal to action dot payload dot quantity. Else we're just gonna return c dot quantity, just like this, and this should work. Let me see if everything is fine. Looks good. Let's check it out. If I click on this, awesome. So this is changing our quantity in real time. If we go below 1, it's gonna be removed. So you can see, wait a minute, why is this added with 3 quantity? Oh, my bad. So the new product was this one, not that one. That was the old product. So yeah, if you add it, it's gonna be added over here. So yeah, just like that. Awesome. So this is working as expected. The only thing that's left now is this subtotal variable. So let me calculate the total for this. So we have already have this state for the total. So right over here, I'm going to create a use effect, and this will only be fired when the cart changes. So I'm going to say set total, and inside of this, I'm going to say cart dot reduce. So we're going to reduce the whole cart to a single value. So we're going to have an accumulator and the current value. I'm going to say accumulator plus, we're going to first convert it from string to number, the current value, and I'm going to say current dot price. So we're adding the price. Also we need to multiply it with the quantity. So current dot quantity, and we're adding it to the initial value of this reducer, and then we're gonna provide it initial value of 0. So if you don't understand what reduce is, so we're providing it an initial value of 0, and then which will be added to this accumulator, and then we are adding one by one this current value, this price into quantity of this product into this accumulator. And I believe this should work. Let's see. Something broke, I guess. Let's see. Reduce of empty array with no initial value. Oh, my bad. I have provided it outside. So it's supposed to be inside of this reduce, of course. Okay, let's refresh this app and check it out. So we are adding this in our cart. So you can see the total. We are adding this product and total is updated. Let's change the quantity. Awesome. So this is working absolutely fine. This is what we expected. So yep, this is how I did the first question of this first round. And then there was this follow-up question that the interviewer asked me, that why did I use useReducer hook over here and not the use state? And I give the same answer that I explained to you earlier, that useReducer is much more scalable than use state, and it basically adds the logic in one single place. So it's much easier for me to add all of this logic and use and manage my state. You can read more about useReducer in the official React.js documentation. You're gonna understand it more thoroughly. And if you would like to create a much more advanced version of this app, I've created a complete video on this shopping cart app with context API, useReducer, which is actually asked in many interviews as well. So you can go and check out that video by clicking the link in the description down below. So yeah, that was it for the first round of the interview, and I was able to successfully clear this round, and I got a call for second round a few days later. But before moving to the second round, I would like to mention that if you're preparing for your front-end interviews and you would like some assistance from me, I've created a TopMate link from which you can book a slot with me, and I'll guide you and help you prepare for your front-end interviews. Also, I've added the code for this cost calculator in my GitHub, so link for that as well will be in the description below. So let's move to our second round. I'm going to create a new file over here, let's say round2.js. So this round was taken by one of the tech leads and was focused on problem solving and front-end basics. And the first question was Pangram string checker. So what is this? So Pangram is a sentence which contains all of the alphabets from A to Z. So here's a very famous example. The quick brown fox jumps over a lazy dog. So this has all alphabets of our English language from A to Z. Let me just copy this example for our testing. Cool. So let's create a function over here called check Pangram. And inside of this, I'm gonna take a string. So I'm just gonna add str. So first of all, let me create an empty array. So new array of 26 size, 26 slots, which will be filled with false. So while I'm doing that, I'll explain you in just a minute. Let me just write it out first. And I'm gonna create an index variable over here. And now I'm gonna run a for loop through this string. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take each element of this string, each character of this string, and check if it contains a particular alphabet or not, and we're gonna accordingly update this array. So for example, if we're gonna say this str of I, that is this current character, if it's more than or equal to A, it lies between A and before Z. So I'm gonna add another condition which will say str of I is less than equal to Z. That is, this keyword lies between A to Z. So then what we're gonna do, we're just gonna say index equals str dot char code add. Don't worry, I'm gonna explain it in just a minute. Of I minus A dot char code. Okay, so first of all, let's see what this char code at is. First of all, this is str, not srt. Yeah, so let's go to Google. And I'm gonna search char code at. So char code at method returns an integer between 0 and 65,535 representing the UTF-16 unit. So basically it converts a particular character into the ASCII code. So for example, you can see the character code sentence.char code at index is equal to sentence.char code at index. Okay, so if we run this, so basically we're providing this index 4 over here. So that is, this is going to be 4, and 4 in this sentence is this Q, right? So it's going to take out the character code, which is 113. So How this 113 came over here? Because we have this ASCII values. So capital A to capital Z are from 65 to 90, and the small a to small z are from 97 to 122. So if we see the Q over here, you're gonna see it's 113. So that is what this char code add does. So getting back to the code. So what we're doing over here is we're saying that if it belongs between A and Z, we're gonna take the character at that particular position and reduce the A dot char code add. So that means if it's a capital letter, then we're gonna add it into that particular index of this array. So I haven't done that yet, so I'll tell you. So if we see over here, we have 65 over here. So let's say if this character was capital A, so capital A minus this code will be equal to 0. So inside of this 0th index, we're gonna fill true. So that means A is satisfied. And then we're gonna iterate over this string again and again and again until we are done with this string. And then in the end, we will check in this array if all of the 26 slots are true. If they are not true, then obviously it's not Pangram. If it's true, then it's Pangram. So similarly, we need to do this with the lowercase letters as well. This, instead of this A, I'm going to say A, and instead of this Z, I'm going to say Z. And instead of this capital A, I'm going to say small a. And else we're going to continue. But if any of these conditions satisfy, we have got this index inside of it. And then we're going to use that index to add inside of this array. So array index will be equal to true. Yep. So this will basically determine if all of the elements inside of the array are true, that is all the 26 characters are satisfied, then this is a Pangram, else it will not be a Pangram. So let's go after this. We're going to check. We're going to add a for loop again to check. So inside of this, if we're going to check if array of I equals to false. If any of this is false, then we're going to return false. Else, if all of them are true, then we're going to return true. Simple. So that is what our code was. So let's try it out. I'm going to use this string now. So check Pangram, and I'm going to add this string inside of it. Let's run this code. So I'm going to go to terminal, and I'm going to say node round2.js. Let's run this. Okay, sorry, my bad. We are not console logging this. Let me just say const result and console log the result. Yeah, let's do this again. So this is false. Let's see what went wrong. This should have worked. Oh, by the way, I was saying Pangram all this time. This is Pangram, not Pangram. My bad. Okay, so we're supposed to write less than equals to over here because this will then go to 24 and not 25. And we have missed an else over here. So cool. Let's try to run this. And yep, we get true for this. And let me remove from things from this. And let's run this again. It should give us false. Awesome. So this works absolutely fine. And this is how you check a Pangram string. Let's move to our second question.
All right, pause. If you're not yet following me on Twitter, go to twitter.com/Piyush_Eon or click the link in the description down below and hit that follow button right now. I'm waiting for you. I'm still waiting. Okay, fine. Let's continue with the video.
Now the second problem solving question was to convert 12 hours time to 24 hours time. I'm going to create a new function over here. Convert 12 to 24, and this will obviously take time in 12-hour format. So obviously we're gonna input the time like this. Let's say 1:02 p.m. right? So we're gonna split this and this. So I'm gonna say time 12h.split by space, right? So this will give us two things, a time and a modifier. So this time and this modifier, right? So const, this will return us an array of those two things. So I'm just gonna say time and modifier. Obviously you can call this anything. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out the hour and minute from this. So similar to this, I'm gonna just copy paste it, and I'll just take time from here and I'll split it by this colon, and I'm gonna take out hours and minutes. Cool. We have everything we need to work. Now we're gonna check if the hour is equal to 12. We're gonna convert it to 0, and with respect to AM and PM, if it's AM then we're gonna leave it at 0, but if it's PM then we're gonna add 12 back to those zeros, right? I'm gonna say if hours is equal to 12, then we're gonna say hours equal to 0. Cool. And now we're gonna check if modifier is PM. So except this 12, let's say if the hour is equal to 1 and the modifier is PM, then also we're supposed to add the 12 to it. So then it will display 13 in the 24-hour format. So then we're gonna say hours equals parse int, we're gonna convert it to an integer value, hours plus 12. If it's AM, then we're not going to do anything. It's going to remain as 1 in 24-hour format as well, right? But if it's PM, then we're supposed to add the 12 to it. Cool. And then we're going to return the hour and minute. So I'm going to use a template string over here. Hour, minutes. And I guess this should do it. Let's check it out. Let's check out few examples over here. I have few examples. Let me copy and paste those. So, yep, we have 2 PM examples, and then we have the 12 PM AM examples. Let's run this. Oh, some error. Oh, assignment to a constant variable. So I'll just keep it as let. Now run this. Yep. So first of all, we had 2 PM, which will be in 24 hours 14:2, 4:06 will be 16:06, and 12 PM will be 12 PM, and 12 AM will be converted to 00. Cool. Awesome. So this is how you convert 12-hour format to 24-hour format. So these were basically the 2 data structure questions that were asked in this interview. The coming questions are on JavaScript, but these 2 questions were on basic level DSA. So if you want me to create a separate series for DSA with JavaScript, you can let me know in the comment down below, and I'll create a data structures with JavaScript series for you all. So the question 3 was an output based question on this keyword. And this was the question right over here with the const user object, which has the name Piyush, and a greet function, which is a normal function, and a farewell function, which is an arrow function. So I've actually discussed this question already in my this keyword video. So I'm going to play that clip right over here. We have been provided a user object with a name and 2 methods. One is a normal function and another is an arrow function. And we are calling both of them over here, and we are supposed to tell what is going to be the output for both of them. Now, as we discussed earlier, greet over here is a normal function. So this for the greet function will point to this user object. But this farewell is an arrow function. So this value inside of an arrow function always equals to this of the outer scope. And we don't have any parent function over here. So obviously this will point to the window object. So this will be goodbye undefined. So let's see. Yep, you see, this is undefined, and we get hello Piyush for this one. Now the next question was on to create LRU cache, that is least recently used cache. So interview explained me this question this way, that we have to create a functionality where we keep on adding a key value pairs to a particular map, and it has a maximum size of 5. So let's say we have added 5 elements, and the moment we have added the 6th element, it's gonna remove the one which is least recently used. So let's say we have added 5 elements and we are getting one of the elements. So by getting one of the elements, we are adding it to the top of the list of being recently used. So let me show you first visually. So let's say we have added all of these 5 keys, and we're gonna have a function to add all of these keys, and we're gonna have a function to access one of these keys. So let's say we access this location key. So what's gonna happen is this location key will go to the top of this least recently used list. So let's say if we have added another key, I don't know, let's add new key equals to something. So in this list, whatever is least recently used will be removed. So this one was at first, so this won't be removed, not this, this. So this is at the last, so this will be removed. Okay, so this is the functionality that we are supposed to develop over here. Now, after listening to this explanation, this was my reaction. So I had no idea how to implement this logic, but anyways, I started implementing this. I thought, okay, let's try. Let's see what happens. So I created a class called LRU so that we can have different functions inside of it, right? And actually, the interviewer was pretty helpful. He was guiding me throughout the way on how I can achieve this. So let's say in our constructor, we have a variable which decides what will be the size of the cache. So I've added by default 5, right? So I'm going to say this dot max equals max. And then we're going to have a cache which contains all of our elements, right? So I'm going to say this dot cache equals new map. I'm going to use a map data structure over here. Now some people will say that this is also a data structure question. Yep, this is a data structure question, but this is very commonly asked in JavaScript interviews. So yeah, it's a mix between both a data structure and JavaScript interview question as well. Now we have initialized this class LRU. Now what are all the things that we need? We are looking to create a function which sets the value inside of this map, a new value, and which gets a particular value from this map. So let's create the set first. So this will take two things, a key and a value. Now inside this, first of all, I'm going to check if this key already exists in our map or not. If it exists, then we're going to replace it with this key. So I'm going to say if this dot cache dot has this key, then we're going to say this dot cache dot delete. I'm just going to delete it from our map, and then we're going to add it again. So, and I'm also going to check if this map is full or not. If it's full, then I'm going to remove the least recently used key, right? So I'm going to say else if this dot cache dot size. So the size is used to calculate the size of this map function. So I'm going to say this dot cache dot size is equal to this dot max, that is this variable over here. If it has reached the max size, then what we're going to do, we're going to say this dot cache dot delete. And what are we going to delete? We are going to delete the first element, which is least recently used. So I'm going to say this dot first, and obviously this first doesn't exist yet. We have to create it. So I'm just going to create a first over here. You can also make this a private function because it's not going to be used outside. So inside this first, I'm just going to simply say return this dot cache dot keys and take all of the keys, and I'm going to return the value of the first key. Now after we have deleted that particular key, we can simply add it. So this dot cache dot set, what do you want to set? This key and value. So key and value. Cool. So this should work. This should add a value inside of this cache map, and we're supposed to create a get function as well. So get, which will obviously take a key. On basis of that, it's going to return the value. So I'm going to say let get key. So what this will do is it's going to fetch the value of this key from this map with this get function over here. There can be a case where this key doesn't exist, right? So this will not return us anything, or maybe it will return us undefined. So I'm going to check if there is something inside this item. Then I'm going to say this dot cache dot delete this key. I'm going to delete this key. Actually, what we're doing over here is we are refreshing this key and we are bringing it to the top. We are making it the recently used key. So we will remove it from the map and we will add it fresh inside of this map. So after that, we're going to say this dot cache dot set key comma item, which was already fetched over here, right? So we are adding this inside of this cache. And then after that, we're going to simply return the item that we have fetched. I think this should work. Let's see. Let's check it out. I create a variable const least, I don't know, let's say LRU cache new LRU. Let's say I'm going to keep the size 3 for now, just to demonstrate. You can keep 5 or 3 or anything. So this will demonstrate, this means that this will take max 3 elements inside this map before it starts removing them. Okay. So now we're going to say LRU cache dot set. I'm going to set first of all key name and value use. And then we're going to say LRU cache dot cache. I'm going to see what's inside of it. I'm going to console log just to see if it's being added or not. Let's run this file. Okay, we have added this inside of our map. Let's add another. Let's age 24. Let's add another profession. E. Let's check it out. Cool. Up until this point, it's working great. Now let's add another one. So this should remove, I believe, name from it. Let's see. I'm gonna add, let's say, location. And if I run this again, you see it removed the name from it. But let's say before this we access this name key, so this will go to the top, right? Then this age will be the least recently used, and then that will be removed from this map. So I'm gonna say LRU cache and I'm gonna access name key. And after accessing this, let's just console log our cache after this. So just so that we can see that name will be on the top, we're gonna console log it before that as well, before accessing this, so that we can have a better understanding. Let's see what happens. Okay, this name is not defined. What? Oh, sorry. Dot get. Yep, that's more like it. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, we had name, age, and profession. Then we accessed our name. So the order was now age is least recently used, profession, and the name was the most recently used or the latest one that was used. So now we are adding another key inside of it. So what should be the case? It should remove this age, and it did. It removed the age from the map, and then we have this final map over here. So yeah, this is what LRU cache is. This is quite frequently asked questions in JavaScript interviews if the interviewer is looking to combine problem solving and JavaScript skills in one question. Now for our next question, the interviewer asked me to create this. We have a slider over here, and then we have a pie chart over here. And as you increase this slider, we increase this pie chart as well. So cool. Let's see how we can do that. So I've opened this code pen over here with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript sections, and let's try to create that over here. So first of all, we're gonna need a range slider, right? So I'm gonna add an input tag with type range, and I'm gonna give it an ID of input handler. And by default, I'm gonna give it a value of 10 so that it has a default value of 10 actually. So I asked the interviewer for this information. You can also ask the interviewers for these types of informations. So here's the range slider, and then after that we're gonna have a div. This div will have a class of pie chart and some style which determines the percentage. And inside of this style, I'm gonna give the default value of the percentage, which I'm gonna keep as 10%. Don't worry if you're unable to understand this. I'm gonna explain this in just a minute. Let's add some stylings for this. So for our input, I'm gonna add some font size of 20 pixels, some margin of 20 pixels around this, and width of 400 pixels. And for our pie chart, I'm gonna give it width and height of 200 pixels. We're gonna give it some padding of 20 pixels, 110 pixels, and then we're gonna have a background image of conic gradient. So let me just copy this code over here, and then I'll explain what this is. So what conic gradient is? Conic gradient takes an initial color, which is green in this case, and it's going to take the percentage which is going to be filled over here. So if I, let's say, I don't know, 50%, you're going to see it covers 50%. If I say 60%, it's going to cover 60%. So this can be helpful for us to create a pie chart. So by default, we are providing this percentage variable as 10%, right? So this is how you define variables in CSS actually. So we are just sending a simply percentage variable to this. And then after that, for the background color, we are saying we need light green. And then this 0 is the gradient, I believe. So if I say 10%, 20%, yeah, this is the gradient, I think. Anyway, we don't need that, so we're gonna keep that 0. And now as you can see, this is a square, right? But we're gonna have to make it a circle to make it a pie chart. So I'm just gonna say border radius to be 50%. Yep, that's working fine. Now let's add some logic by writing our JavaScript code so that when we move this slider, we move this percentage value as well. So I'm gonna get this pie chart element from our HTML. Pie chart equals document dot query selector, and I'm gonna select this pie chart. Okay. Now after that, I'm gonna say document dot query selector, and I'm gonna get this input handler, which is this. So I'm just gonna say hash input handler, since this is an ID. So we're using hash. Since this was in class, we're using dot. And we're gonna say add event listener, which is going to be for input. We're adding the event listener to this. So whenever this input changes, what we're gonna do, we're gonna call this callback over here. So e an event, and inside of this, let me bring this down. Yep. So inside this callback, I'm gonna say pie chart dot style. So we're gonna update this percentage value style to be percentage. I'm gonna use a template string over here, e dot target dot value, and we're gonna provide it a percentage over here. Cool. I think this should do it. Let's see. Yep, that is working flawlessly. So yep, this was the 5th question of this interview, and with this, the second round is successfully over. Now, I was able to clear the second round, and after a few days, I got a call for the hiring manager round. Now, this was a very short round. I think it lasted around 15 to 20 minutes. In this, first of all, he asked me to showcase what my projects were, what I've already worked on. So I showed him my personal projects. So if you remember, I've discussed this in my Unacademy video as well. So let me play that clip over here. So next, interviewer asked me to show him all of my projects. So I already had shared my portfolio with him. So I'm gonna go to my portfolio over here, which is this one. Looks good, isn't it? So I showed him all the projects one by one, and he liked this project a lot, the chat app with Stack. The tutorial for which I've already created on my channel, so you can click the link in the description or I button above to learn how you can also build this project with Stack. So he asked questions like, why did you use a particular tech stack? Why did you use this database and this front-end technology and stuff like that? Now after that, he asked me what is code splitting and how I would go on and use that in one of my projects. Now I would love to explain what code splitting is in depth in this video right over here, but it's a very vast topic, right? So I would highly recommend you to go and watch this video that I have created on code splitting after you are done watching this particular video, because this is a very important topic and I want you to understand this topic in much in depth. Now after this, we had some general discussion about the company and the salary discussion, etc. And that was it for all the 3 rounds of the interviews. Now if you like this video, give this video a huge fat thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more such awesome videos on interview preparation. And also, if you are preparing for a front-end interview, you can click the top mate link in the description down below and book a slot with me, and I will guide you and help you in preparing for your front-end interview. And also follow me on Instagram at roadside coder.